Now, as they reached the midpoint of the wall beyond which lay the low barracks where George had been held, it was time to try the chantiest part of the plan she had hatched. He gave her hand a small pull, and they stepped out of the woods surrounding the fort, and began down the side of the ditch that had been dug to protect the walls from a massed charge by an attacking force. As a measure to break an infantry charge, it was no doubt perfect. There was no way to go through it quickly. However, for two young people who needed cover and quiet, rather than speed, in their approach to the wall, it was better suited to their needs than flat ground would have been. They emerged from the far side of the ditch, coming to face the outer wall of the fort. With his hands more than with his eyes, George verified that what he recalled of the walls was correct. The outer surface consisted of roughly trimmed timbers, set into the earth and leaning slightly inward, presumably resting on a berm made up of the earth moved out of the ditch they had just come through. He pulled Louise close to him and whispered, "The rope, now!" He could hear her rustling slightly through the rucksack she had slung over her shoulder, and she quickly placed the coil of stout hempen line they had taken from Lemuel's boat into his hand. George found the end that he had tied into a loop with a slipknot, all the while trying not to think of it as a noose, and uncoiled the rest of the line to lie freely on the ground at his feet. Taking a deep breath, he tossed it up the side of the wall, and winced as it bounced off and scraped down the side, seeming to him as though it was making more noise than a cow kicking over a pail. He and Louise both froze, their hearts pounding, for several long moments, listening for any reaction from the blockhouses or the other side of the wall. Hearing none, George gingerly retrieved the loop end of the rope, his hands now shaking as his heart hammered in his chest. He ensured again that the rest of the rope lay free on the ground, and tossed the loop up the side of the wall a second time. This try, it stayed up, but when he tugged it to see if the loop would catch on a post at the top of the wall, it again fell slack and slid down the side of the wall. After he had recovered himself and the rope a second time, he pulled Louise close enough to whisper again. "How many times will we chance some soldier hearing this and wondering whether an animal or a rebel lies without?" She answered in a grim, flat whisper, "Until we succeed or die trying." He knew that she could not see his answering grimace, but his resolve was bolstered by the quick kiss she planted on his cheek, and so he did not argue, instead preparing himself for a third try. This time, he had gotten the range to the top of the wall right, and when he pulled the line, it held firm. He could feel the loop tighten as he drew it taut, until it was as solidly in place as if it had been tied there from within by an obliging British soldier. He whispered again to Louise, "We need not die trying. At this point, in any case, the rope is secure." She kissed him again, whispering back, "I know you could secure it. Shall I be the first over the wall?" "Nay," he replied. "If a British patrol awaits within, I would rather that I be the one to face them, while you escape to safety." This time, it was his turn to remain ignorant of her grimace. "Once I'm over, I'll tug the rope 3 times quickly to signal that it is safe for you to follow." He tapped her arm thrice to demonstrate what he meant. She whispered in reply, "I will wait for your signal, but if you are taken, I will still come after you. It is the last thing they will expect." He shook his head at her stubbornness, but did not reply, simply pulling her close for a quick embrace, and then releasing her to begin scaling the side of the wall.